Oh, yeah. Can you dig it? Show you right. Here we go, baby. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends, countrymen, internetonians. Lend me your ear. Shall we bite thy thumb at thee, or shall we ask and ye shall receive, or shall we hark through yonder window break? What light through yonder window break? I don't even know my Shakespeare anymore. Hell with it. Hi, I'm Jake Johnson, and you're watching Untethered Live. This is the chill stream on a Friday night, where we're going to have a good time and talk about, stuff. You've heard about it. You know about it. You've seen it on the news. We're talking good old-fashioned, grade A, USDA-approved stuff. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I hope you'll like it. I think you will. I suspect you might have a little cynicism bone in you somewhere. That's where we're headed, so... On the great topic, we are 3/4 of the way through the Bible on Bible study on Sunday and Monday nights. And I was just thinking about it today. I'm just curious. Have you learned anything? Were you surprised about anything? Did you hear anything that you didn't know was in the Bible? Or did you think there were some things that were there that turned out not to be? Discuss. That's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about it and see if I can get anybody on board with a conversation. See if we can dig a little deeper into the mentality of the stuff in your head. Who's with me? Anybody? Am I all by myself? Nope, there's somebody watching. There's always somebody watching. Could be the government. Just because you're paranoid don't mean they're not out to get you. Thanks a lot, Joe. I went to the gas station this morning and I put $20 worth of gas in my car. $20, which ain't much. I'm not a filler up kind of guy. I'm a $5 here, $10 there kind of guy. So I put $20 in my car, and I have a small car. And I got in and cranked her up, and it said it was empty. So I went and looked. Sure enough, gas prices are $4.99 a gallon around here. Pretty close to $5 a gallon. Thanks a lot, Joe. You know, it wasn't like that a year or two ago. I remember $1.70, $1.60, $1.25 even in some places at some point. Been a while, but I remember it. $4.99, really? Don't we have oil here? Pretty sure we do because we were using it 2 years ago. But, you know, policy dictates that you got to do everything opposite of what the orange man does. Shut down the Keystone Valdez pipeline or whatever it's called. Shut down fracking. Shut down all American oil. And buy it from other places like Russia. Heard the president begging for Venezuela to sell us some oil the other day. Begging him, please, can we buy some oil? We have oil in this country. What's wrong with you? Lots of it. Lots and lots of it. Like 500, 600, 700 years worth of it just on the surface. Think not? Go to Texas. There are oil drills in Pennsylvania. There are oil drills in Las Vegas. They got thinly veiled buildings built over top of them so they don't look like eyesores, but they're there, I promise. If you ever go to Vegas and you see a row of buildings that look like facades, they look funny, they look like they're not really buildings, but they're there. Those are not buildings. Those look like buildings, but they're covering oil rigs. In Las Vegas. Got some in LA too. Why are we not using the oil that we own? I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't bode well for the war machine. If we use our own oil, we don't have anything to fight about. That should tell you something, folks. Thanks a lot, Joe. All right. It is Friday. It is lackadaisical. It is raining outside. And, you know, I imagine some folks are out partying right now. Where I'd like to be. Let me text somebody and see if I can get one of my moderators here. It's like I have to ask them to come. I don't think that's true. I think they're just busy. Can't have every show be a swinging success. I get that. I've had some pretty good ones here in the last few months. Very good ones. So I'm okay with some slower ones. Chat ain't moving so fast I can't read it. That's a good thing. That's one positive. I might sing you a song in a little while. Play something you want to hear. Talk about the 4 shows I got coming up. I'm excited about that. Talk about the music video I'm getting ready to shoot. I'm excited about that. And a little apprehensive because it's a lot of work. But it's worth it. And we'll have a good product when we're done. So that's good. Talk about a new song I'm writing. Hadn't got any words yet, but I got some music. Something like this. Anyway, this is the idea. Something like that, anyway. We'll figure it out. Anyway, it's been noodling around in my head for a while, that little lick. I think it'll turn into something nice. As soon as I get the inspiration for a lyric, it'll just pop out then once I get an idea of what I want to write about. I've been writing political songs here. The last couple were religious and political. So it's time for a change. Might have to write a love song or something. Or a Thanks a Lot Joe song. I might write one of those. It is rainy outside, man. I went outside a little while ago and it's just coming down. Hey, Kev, what's up, brother? My first customer of the night, Kevin Cox. There's somebody else watching, but they don't want to talk. Where's April at tonight? Yeah, I know the babe. You remind me of the babe. What babe? The babe of power. What power? The power of the voodoo. Who do? You do. Do what? Remind me of the babe. There's a 420. What's happening, brother? Hadn't seen you in a while. I do not have it in memory. Sorry. I only played it one time, so I can't remember anything about it. Hey, April. The sky, that's what's up. Definitely not me. I will relearn it for you, Kev. I just hadn't played it in a while, that's all. Been out every day with friends. Well, it's nice to have friends. Those are indispensable. Yeah. Sometimes we get caught up inside and spend so much time in there we forget there's a whole world going on outside. So it's nice to get out and get some sunshine and fresh air. I'm proud for you. Where has Sasquatch been? I don't know. I guess he's bored with me. I hadn't seen him in a while. He's probably just really busy with his channel. Don't you go by his channel often? I wasn't Wandering Hippie's channel last night, and he said he hadn't seen them in a while either. Just curious to know if he's okay. Well, I'll text him. Let's see what he says. I gotta find him first. There he is. I'm just sending him a text real quick. All right, let's see if he hits me back. You saw him on somebody's live today? Okay. April says, how are you feeling, 420? Uh-oh, I'm getting a response. He's sleeping, he says. See? I'm good. I'm sleeping. There you go. All right, you've heard from him. I went to work for her that summer. Teenage kid so far from home. She was a lonely widow woman, helping to make it on her own. We were 1,000 miles from nowhere, wheat fields as far as I could see. And on the air there was a hunger, I forgot the damn song. We had a need to feel the thunder, chasing lightning from the sky. Watch the storm with all its wonder, raging in her lover's eyes. We had a right to ease the passion, like a comet burning bright, rushing headlong in the wind. Now we're only dreams have been burning both ends of the night, rushing headlong in the wind. Now we're only dreams have been burning both ends of the night. Down, 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 down. little horse Garth Brooks. That's what it sounds like when 4 French police cars get in a wreck. All right, so topic for today is we are 3/4 of the way through the Bible. We're almost to the end of it. We're almost there. We're getting there very fast on the Sunday and Monday Bible studies. So the question is, have you learned anything? And if so, what? Are you surprised by anything? And if so, what? Was there anything in there that you didn't expect? And was there anything you expected that wasn't in there? And if so, what? Discuss. It's a long day today. Worked all day long. And then got home and working some more. So I'm still working. So today is pretty good so far. Thanks for asking. It's a rainy day. You know how those are. So about the Bible, I've put in some great detail and some great effort to bring it to you and correctly as I can bring it. So the question is have you learned anything? And if so, what? What did you learn? What took you by surprise? What inspired you? What scared you? Give me some information about what you're thinking about all of this work that I've done. Where has it put you mentally? Is there anything worth talking about? Is it just one of those things? I know for me, I read it years and years ago, cover to cover, and I've since then went through it probably 5 times, little pieces here and there, not reading it cover to cover, but, studying on certain things here and certain things there and following rabbit holes and whatnot. So this is the next time that I'm reading it cover to cover, 20 years later. And it always surprises me, some of the details that jump out that I didn't catch last time or that I forgot about as I went on. Little things, I mean, I've got the basic idea of all the stories pretty much down pat. I kind of know how it goes from start to finish. But there's little things involved in the goings that I forget about or that maybe I didn't catch it the first time around or whatever. And I always get surprised by those things. But the general idea is as basic as you can get it. We started here. We go through a big journey and we end here. And this is inevitable. It's going to happen. No matter how you get there, you're going to end up there. So I guess it's to answer someone's question who asked me one time if I believed in free will. I believe in free will. I think you have the free will. You can do whatever you want to do. But I also believe in manifest destiny. I believe that you have free will, but you also have a end point, a destination, as it were. And I don't care how you get there. You can make any kind of decision you want. It's going to lead. All roads lead to that end. So whatever you do in your life, you're going to end up at this end point. So I think both things are true. It's amazing to you how history seems to happen over and over and over. Yeah, it's almost like it's following a script, like it can't do anything else because it does repeat itself over and over and over. Maybe not exactly the same thing, but the themes are all there. You could draw a lot of parallels with the fall of Rome with what's happening in America right now. And there's a lot of themes that transfer over quite nicely. And then you could go further back to the fall of Egypt, and it's the same details. Same themes. Mentally, it's made you calm. Listen with wiser patience and not shout with evil words. Yes, but did you learn anything? Yes, it does give you a calming effect, and it will bring you to a sense of self-evaluation. But what we're discussing today are details. Have you learned anything that you did not know when we started this? I'm interested in this because it's a lot of work, and I like to feel like I'm doing something. You know what I mean? And history does repeat itself quite often. Hey, like my shirt, by the way. It says, thanks a lot, Joe. Indeed, I have self-control. Sure. I'm trying to get at the meat of the details of things, though. Trying to see where you were when we started this versus where you are now, as far as understanding the concepts that are in the Bible and that sort of thing. Nice. You didn't know that animals didn't eat meat. Yep. They were designed, along with mankind, to eat herbs and seeds and fruits and roots. They did not eat meat. That's a thing that happened after the flood. Because then foodstuffs were kind of scarce and trees had to regrow and that sort of thing. So all we had to eat was whatever we could kill and eat. Now, they eat meat, say during the sacrifices and things like that, they would eat the sacrifice. But not everyone was privy to that. You got to understand that we're talking about, in that world, this is the 1%. This is the people that have the wealth. You know, there's a lot of nomads running the countrysides, people all over the place, scattered. But the Israelites were together. They were the group of people that had the wealth. So when they did a sacrifice, there's quite a lot of cattle involved in that. Sometimes they'd kill 100 of them and sacrifice them. So somebody's got to eat all that meat. So for that day, they ate like kings, you know. They may not eat like that every day, but they eat that way during the sacrifice. And I always found that to be fascinating. Because essentially, if you take just the ritual of it, sacrifice is no different than setting the table for dinner. You lay out the stuff, the centerpiece, the food, you know. You set the plates. You do this ritual where you set things in order. The glass, the plate, the silverware, the napkins. Then everybody gathers around and they join hands and bow their heads and they thank God for the meal. They bless the meal, and then they partake of the meal and eat it. And they break the bread, pass it around. It's all a ritual. It happens every night around every dinner table in some form or another. It's the same thing that they were doing back then, only it was more ritualistic back then, and it was bigger. And rather than just whatever, they had a very particular prescribed set of sacrifices. This is, you do this for this reason. This sacrifice covers this. And these people are allowed to partake of it, and these people are not. You know, there's a lot more specific. But it's basically the same idea. It's the same concept as sitting around eating dinner. That's something a lot of people I don't think understand. I think they think the sacrifice means something other than what it means. The sacrifice itself was basically man's idea anyway. It was not God's idea. However, he said if you're going to do it, you got to do it a certain way. That's right. What is like to know, where did those demons go after the pigs committed suicide fell over the cliff. Well, that's easy. They went and sought out new hosts. You see, spirits are kind of funny. Souls, however you want to look at it. Your spirit is designed for your body. It will only live in your body. Or maybe, if you believe in reincarnation, it may fit in a compatible body. I don't know how that works, so I tend to not teach those things because it's not biblical. However, Christ himself was not necessarily against that idea, so I don't know. All I can tell you is what the Bible says. But an angelic spirit just needs a body. It doesn't matter what kind. It doesn't matter where it comes from. If you make a clay body, it can inhabit it. All it needs is arms, legs, and a head. So, when these demons were in this man, and Jesus Christ was going to cast them back to the pit, they pleaded with him. They said, look, we don't want to go back there. That's torture. We don't deserve that. I know we disobeyed God, but we don't want to go back to the pit, which is a prison for the spirits. They're not supposed to be out here on the earth. They're supposed to be in a prison. And Jesus capitulated. He gave them mercy. Instead of sending them back to the pit where they belong, he cast them into a herd of swine, where their bodies took up the demons. The swine, however, did not like that and decided to take matters into their own hands and run headlong off the edge of a cliff, committing suicide. That would release those spirits into the air. And then they would have to find another host, which means they went out probably and inhabited somebody else's poor body. They did not, however, go back to the pit where they should have been sent back to, but that was Christ's call, and he chose to give them mercy and not send them there. Had it been me, I'd have sent them back to the pit, but it wasn't me. So it can go into animals also, yes, or anything made that looks vaguely human-ish. You know those drawings that are on like ancient Egyptian walls of like a dog with an alligator head or a man with a falcon's head or something like that? I think there's something to those drawings. I think they're more than just fantasy. I think they were experimenting with putting angels in bodies back then. Because at that time, you got to figure, that's the period in time when the angels were here on this earth. They were roaming around mingling with mankind. So they probably had some form of technology or some form of experimentation that involved getting them into a flesh body. Because an angel, while is alive and is a thing, an entity, I don't know that it can interact with this world without having a flesh body. I don't know. I've never seen one up close. I'd like to. But for the way I understand it is, the angelic spirit can inhabit any form of any body at any time, whereas your spirit is limited to your body. You couldn't, like, cast your spirit into another body. I don't know that God can't do that. He might can, but you can't. Historians like to pass those things off as fiction. Only problem with that is in those days, there wasn't a lot of fiction being written. They wrote things to record things for posterity. And it took a lot of effort to write something, so they weren't just writing random things that aren't true. They wrote things for the sake of remembering them. So I tend to put a little bit more credit into their writings and say, hey, they probably were writing about something that they knew about, something that was real. Or they were probably carving these pictures of things that actually took place so that they could remember it, or so they could pass it down to generations beyond them. Either way, there were angels on the earth in those days, and they will be again, just like in the days of Noah, at the end times, as foretold by Jesus Christ. So you can look forward to those kind of things happening again, and if you look into studies like chimera studies, things like that, things that the Chinese are doing, you could say it's already happening. And it may very well be. It's creepy. What do you think, 420? What do you think, 420? Back to you, Jim. Fanciful as it may be, I do think there is something to that, though. Sounds like fantasy, but it's not. And this coming from the guy who don't believe in psychics or ghosts or aliens. I think there's probably life out there somewhere, but I don't think it's alien life. And that's just a semantic argument. Yeah, if you wrote weird things back then, they might kill you for it. That's true, too. Kevin's driving, but he's listening. Well, that's good. If he says anything, write it down. Had to be true stories. Well, there was something going on there for sure. They definitely did things a little differently than anybody else in the world did there in Egypt. And all these little buildings that we find, these temples as they're called, they automatically ascribe to everyone that they find it be a temple or some form of worship or ceremony place. I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, we got lots of buildings now that aren't worship places or ceremony places. We got grocery stores and bars and storage units and all kinds of things. And why would they build so many cathedrals or so many churches if every building they had was a church or in some way related to astrology? That don't leave a lot for anything else, you know? So I don't think that's true. I think that's just something that modern scientists do to make it seem like they're getting somewhere for the sake of funding. You wouldn't doubt if they take over rats. I don't know if they'd fit in a rat. They might. Who knows? Had to be giants? Well, they were definitely giants. That's a proven fact. Mainstream science won't admit it, but see, even as far back as the 1800s, that's not that long ago, they were finding giant bones right here in America and sending them to the Smithsonian, because that's what you do when you find bones, right? Well, the Smithsonian would come out and collect them, and then nobody'd ever see them again. Isn't that special? But that's the way it happened. It's been written about in newspapers all over the place. If you don't believe in that, look up the Lovelock Caves in Arizona. Lovelock Caves. And see what it says about that. You will find out. Sorry, I had something in my throat. You will find out that there was a group of Native Americans that lived in that area who were having a real hard time with a bunch of cannibalistic, giant, redheaded folks. That they would run out in the field and pick them up and take a bite out of buffalo. That's what they said. That's what the Native Americans said. Said that these giants could pick up a buffalo with one hand and bite into it. Now imagine how big that feller is. Have you ever seen a buffalo? Now, that may be an exaggeration, but they did write that. And why would they write that if it weren't true? Or at least true enough that that statement makes sense. Yeah, there were a lot of demons in that one man. So we surmise. We don't really know that, but the word legion means many. And when Jesus asked the angel who he was, he said legion. We are legion. So apparently there was many demons in that one man. Yes. Redheaded, yes, like from Scotland. You'll find out, though, that redheads are not an anomaly. They probably the first. The word Adam means ruddy complected or to show blood in the face, like to blush. That's what the word Adam means, ruddy complected, which means he more than likely had red hair or blonde hair. He had light, translucent skin, though. To show blood in the face means you're pale. Also, Absalom, David's son, was called fair-haired, which would either be red-headed or blonde-headed. And David himself was considered fair. So he may have been red-headed or blonde-headed, sandy blonde, something like that. The redheaded gene, what I'm saying, has been here since the beginning. Legion is 20, says Kevin. I'll have to look into that. I don't know that that's the exact number, but it could be. That sounds right. And yes, a lot of giants had red hair. And a lot of the old tales of giants, they were red-headed giants, like Gog and Magog, which were held by a king in England as prisoners and made to go out and fight in these little, like, wrestling matches. So he had at least one giant held prisoner, and that was in the Dark Ages, which would be 1400s. Wasn't that long ago is what I'm saying. So right up until modern times, there were giants still living on this earth. And there may still be some now in other countries. Who knows what's out there? Now, the people that we see that are of abnormal size, it's because of a defect. There's a giantism birth defect that causes people to grow really tall, and it's not good for them. They're very unhealthy and very brittle and frail. These guys were not that. These guys were big on purpose, you know. And according to who you listen to, they might have been 14 feet tall. They might have been 30 feet tall. I don't know. You saw Jack and the Beanstalk? Well, you know that's based on a real story. It's a lot darker in reality, but it is based on a true story. And it was Jack the Giant Slayer, not Jack and the Beanstalk. That's a modern adaptation of that story. But the original story was about a young man, kind of like David, who would go out and slay giants. David was a giant slayer, if you think about it. He killed Goliath. And then later killed Goliath's brother, who was also a giant. And, you know how Indians, you remember the old Lone Ranger show where the Indians would come up to you and go, "How?" How roughly translates to "show me your hand." And the reason they did that, the reason this is the symbol is because if you're walking up on somebody off in the distance and you make eye contact with them and you go, "How?" and they raise their right hand to show you whether or not they have 5 fingers or 6. That's the reason for that. Because some of those giants had 6 fingers and 6 toes. Like Goliath had 6 fingers and 6 toes. And 2 rows of teeth, by the way. Everyone and everything was big back then. Not necessarily. Yes, he killed Goliath with a rock. Used a sling. And then I don't know if that killed him or not. That knocked him out for sure. But then he cut his head off with his own sword. So he didn't survive that, I'm sure. But yeah, the reason Indians go, "How?" is to see if you got 5 fingers or not. And then they know to stay away from you if you don't. That's a little tidbit I learned a couple of years ago. Thought that was very interesting. And it's funny how things like that come about. We have a lot of things that we do every day that we don't even know what the meaning of them is. Like the phrase, "you got me over a barrel." Do you know what that's from? That's from river boating. And when somebody would fall overboard and drown, they would pick them up out of the water and then lay them backwards over a barrel so it would force the water out of their lungs. And it's a very uncomfortable and uncompromising position. And the phrase would often be said, "You got me over a barrel," meaning I don't have any choice but to do what you want me to do right now. But that's where that phrase comes from. I'm fascinated by colloquialisms and figures of speech, and you can learn a lot about a culture by looking into the way they say things. Most of our figures of speech come from poker, playing poker, or cowboying, running cattle. There's a lot of expressions we have for that. Or riverboat gambling. Like, I got an ace in the hole. There's one. A lot of baseball metaphors that we use. Just think about what you say sometimes. Think about the meaning of the words you're using, where they came from. Etymology. Yeah, I'm fascinated by it. What else would you like to know? Oh, yeah. The island of Malta have graves on it that were attributed to giants. There's a place in England called Rothiam, which means land of the dead, where there were some giants buried. And where else? Oh, down in the Amazon, down in South America, at the very tip, there's a place called Patagonia, which translates into English, land of the big feet people. It's where Bigfoot comes from. So apparently at one time that place was inhabited by people with huge feet. Isn't that special? Patagonia, look into it. Anything else out of the Bible that's caught your eye that you found interesting? There are words I've never heard before, and when I see them, it's interesting to read the meanings of them. Yep. What about the drawings in Peru? Are you talking about the Nazca Lines? The ones that you can only see from the air? That's in the province of Nazca. And it's pretty much a desolate desert. There's nothing there. Nothing grows there. There's no water there. There's very few people there. But out there in the desert, on the desert floor, there's these drawings that are so big you can't see them from the ground. The only way you can appreciate them is by flying over the area in an airplane and looking down and seeing them. And they're quite detailed drawings, very well proportioned. It doesn't look like somebody did it from the ground. It looks like somebody was up there and painted it with their finger in the dirt. Don't know what that's all about. There's no real history. Those people didn't write, so they didn't have any history to hand down, so nobody really knows why they did that. Either a really tall guy did it or they had some form of planes. Yeah. Well, I believe in ancient flight. I've seen some things in Egypt that let me think they had understanding of lift and drag and pitch and yaw and that sort of thing. There's some technology there that leads me to believe that. I don't know if it was a plane per se, but they definitely had some kind of floating devices. And it may very well have been a plane or some kind of glider. But anybody that can look up and look at a bird would tell you that somebody would probably have that idea at some point to copy what a bird does. And I just don't believe that it didn't happen until the Wright brothers did it. And in fact, they got the idea from somewhere, and they were historians before they started their journey into making bicycles and then into airplanes. So I would imagine that they probably come across a writing somewhere that gave them the idea to make a plane in the first place. Me too, that plane they made flies. Oh, you're talking about the model they made from the little figurine they found in Egypt? Turns out that it's flight worthy. They made an exact replica of it, only about 2 feet bigger. And then they put it through all the paces, put it in wind tunnels and all that, and it actually flew and flew well. It wasn't just a fluke. It was designed to do so. And it was a little wooden figurine about that big. And if they had that, they had other things. I also think they had some form of electricity, because there are no burn markings in the pyramids, like if you had a torch, you know. The soot inevitably collects on the roof. There's none of that. So they went in there with some kind of vision, and it's dark in there, believe me. There may have been a time for magic in this world, but it would have been a really long time ago, and definitely before the flood. If you think about things in terms of diminishing returns, like, you know, you make a copy of a copy of a copy, and each copy gets weaker than the last one. And then you go back to the old days and think they had magi and wizards and people with powers, and then their offspring had less powers, but they were like seers and soothsayers and oracles and that sort of thing, and that fits perfectly with the timeline. And then a little further down, their offspring, they were sensitive and psychics and, you know, that sort of thing. And finally you get today where people are they just have sensitive natures. Some people, like from the early 60s and on, there were people that could sense things or have emotions, heightened emotions or empathy or something like that. But there's really no more magic in the world, because it's basically been bred out of us. Wow, amazing. They put a remote control motor on a replica and it flew. Yes, I saw that documentary. I don't want it or not burn marks. You can't have something on fire stay lit. That's deep in the tunnel pyramids were. Huh? You're saying it won't stay lit? Well, there may be something about the amount of oxygen in the room, because it is an airtight room. It is made out of solid granite and it's pretty thick. So there may be something to that where it won't burn very well in there. But I suspect... Sorry, he spoke in the phone and it spelled all this. But I suspect that they didn't go in there with torches in the first place, because there's no evidence that that's ever occurred. Also, the idea that those places are tombs is laughable. They had lights. I think they did too. You ever seen the Baghdad battery? Now, whether they used that to light up lights or whether they were using it like to electroplate jewelry, I don't know, but they definitely understood current and voltage and that sort of thing. They had to have, because they built a battery, and you don't do that by accident. Yeah, the Baghdad battery. And there's some other examples in other places of that very same thing too. They just don't call it Baghdad batteries. Gifts only God blesses us with. That's not true. That's more likely from the Prometheus school of thought. If you'll read the book of Enoch, you'll note that there was a period in time where angels came to the earth against the advice of God. They weren't supposed to do so. They left their habitation and came here, which is backed up by the Bible. But the book of Enoch goes into detail about what they did when they got here. And one thing they did was teach mankind spells and incantations and rituals and technologies. One of those was fire. One of those was other things. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't go into detail about what those spells and incantations were, but I'd say they had a lot to do with agriculture and that sort of thing. Reading the sky clock, the Zodiac, and all that. That information came from somewhere, and nobody knows where, because it goes back to the beginning of time. As long as there's been people, there have been people that understood the Zodiac. so they don't actually know where it comes from. However, the Zodiac tells the story of the birth of Christ and the resurrection of Christ and his triumph over evil. So, even though it goes way further back than Christ himself, that's what it alludes to. All things allude to Christ. You ever wonder why today, in this modern secular world in which we live, we still use the term BC, which stands for before Christ, and Anno Domini, which stands for after Christ's death? There's a reason that we measure time by that man's existence. Out of all the people that have lived in the world, we measure time by him because everything points to him, not just time. That's why I don't understand why atheists have such a problem with his existence, because it's all over the place. Evidence of that man's existence is everywhere, literally. No historian worth their salt would ever deny the existence of Jesus as a man. They can deny him being God, but they can't deny he was here because his presence is well known and well felt among many cultures. Even the Hopi Indian talk about Jesus Christ, and they never left Arizona as far as I know. It's kind of fascinating, though. I forgot what point I was making, but the Zodiac. So I think the angels came here and taught mankind how to do agriculture, how to grow crops, when to grow, and that sort of thing. Taught them how to make fire and how to make weapons of war and how to divide the land into parcels, which we could then take ownership of, because as long as there's land, there's going to be war. Before there was land, there was no war. But now that there's ownership, there's somebody that wants what you have, and that causes conflict. This life is amazing, 420. You're absolutely right. And it's amazing in its own right, without the need of fantasy or science fiction. It's quite amazing just like it is. There's quite a lot of very interesting things that have occurred in this world. And there was a time when magic was on this earth and other things. That time is past. That stuff don't exist anymore, but it did. Did at one time. There was a time for all that stuff. A third world age, if you will. Amen, Jake. Thank you, dear. I appreciate you. And out of all that stuff, there's only two things in life that make it worth living. My guitar tuned good and tight and some naked women. But I don't need my name in the marquee lights. I got this song and I got you guys tonight. Maybe it's time we get back to the basics of love. Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, Waylon and Willie and the boys. This successful life we're living's got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Between Hank Williams' train songs and Jake Johnson's pain songs and Blue Eyes crying in the rain, out in Lukenbach, Texas, ain't nobody feeling no shame. So baby, let's close this suit and tie, and I forgot society and cry all day. I forgot the song. This suit and tie's killing me, in your high society you cry all day. We've been so busy keeping up with the Jones, a 4-car garage and we're still building on. Maybe it's time we get back to the basics of love. Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, Waylon and Willie and the boys. This successful life we're living's got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Between Hank Williams' train songs and Jake Johnson's pain songs and Blue Eyes crying in the rain. Out and looking like Texas, ain't nobody feeling no pain. Out in looking like Texas, ain't nobody feeling no pain. Alrighty then. Prayer is the only way to see miracles happen. That may very well be so. I believe in miracles, but I don't believe they happen currently. I think there was a time for that too, and that time has passed. Just like there was a time for prophets. And there will be a time for prophets in the end times when brothers and sisters and sons and daughters will prophesy, but that hasn't happened yet. Or it's happening now. It hasn't currently happened, but it will happen. But there was a time in the past when there was a group of people that were prophets. They were made prophets. They were designed to be prophets, and that's what they did, prophesy. And what is a prophet is somebody that hears God speak to them and then they repeat it for mankind. There's a whole section of the Bible that's dedicated to the prophets and the minor prophets, which are littler prophets with less important roles. Woohoo, Jake. That said spirit world a minute ago. Were you asking for one of my songs, or were you just making a statement about the spirit world? Because I have a song called Spirit World, is why I'm asking. Here, I'll play it for you if I can. I've been down in a valley, walking in the rain. I've been up in a high rise, reflecting on my pain. I've been down on the main road, running from my shame. I've been too much trouble, hated for my name. Been on my knees in revival, trying not to go insane. And I fought with the evil who tried to bind me up in chains. And I gave the dead eye to that dark man's wicked claim. And I was delivered out of living my life in vain. I felt the heat rising up from within. Lord, there ain't no doubt I will find a route to the house I've been living in. I felt the flame burning my skin, Lord. I was led to the door of the spirit world, but I didn't go in. And I heard that thunder crack across the eastern sky, and I could taste the sulfur on the wind as he walked by. From the depths of deception he approached in disguise, and Even though I saw him coming, he took me by surprise. I felt the shock to the knife and I showed up to fight, but the sun was in my eyes. And I felt redemption for the first time in my life, surrounded by the hunger, the anger, and the strive. And I heard the voice of wisdom say there's no need to pay a price, boy. I'm the mystery in your mind. I am the sacrifice. You'll lose your sight to the light, but you will see the might of the hand that wields a knife. I've been lost in the desert. I've been running out of time. And I've been caught in bad weather. I've been caught without a dime. I've been deep in the jungle, trying to expand my mind. And I've been high on a mountain top, trying to leave the whole world behind. I felt the heat rising up from within. Lord, there ain't no doubt I will find a new route to the house I've been living in. Felt the flame burning my skin, Lord. I was led to the door of the spirit world, but I didn't go in. Yeah, 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 yeah. There you go. There's a spiritual song for you. Are you leaving? I didn't leave when you got here. What's up with that? You can't eat and watch? That's all right. I need to get out of here too. At some point. There's only one of you watching anyway, so hey. Let me go ahead and get this out of the way so we can get on with it. Hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon so you get notifications of when I'm going to be online. Smash that like button. It's free. It's right in front of you. It takes no effort at all, and it really helps the channel with the algorithm, so there's really no reason not to. So just hit that like button. Share this video with somebody you love. Better yet, share it with somebody you don't love. Bring them into the family. Make them part of the fold. Be part of their solutions, not part of their problems. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking about. Question me, curse me, bless me, challenge me, confront me, conform with me, drink my Kool-Aid. Drink your own Kool-Aid. As long as you're thinking critically, that's what I want. Critical thought coming from that brain of yours. And hey, if you love what I'm doing here and you like the value of what I'm trying to create and you'd like to support this channel by helping me out in some way or another, won't you consider it by going to paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand. Every little bit helps. It's a win-win. It's a blessing for me. It's a blessing for you too, because we live in a reciprocal universe. God knows what he's doing. And I thank you for your support and your trust and your confidence, and I will do everything within my power to be worthy of it. And with that, I will finish this video for your pleasure. Ribbed with your pleasure in mind. And you know, one of those things. Thank you, Joe. Thanks a lot. Have you guys enjoyed the conversation? Do you like what you heard tonight? Have you learned anything? I'm big on learning stuff, so if you want to hang out with me, you got to learn something eventually. That's what I'm trying to do here, folks. I mean, Jake. You're mean? Yeah, I know. I love you, Daddy. I'll talk to you on Sunday. Have a good night. I mean, Jake, not Daddy. No, there's no Freudian slip there. I didn't mean that. Bad daddy. That's all right. Lots of girls call me daddy. It's okay. You know what that means. It's time for an enema. What did you think about the conversation tonight? You think there's ever a possibility where we could get into it and have some real conversation about real, deep subjects, thoughts, and ideas, and, talk about the things we've learned? And I mean, there's really no point in continuing doing this if nobody's getting anything out of it. That's the whole idea. I love you too, Thru. Definitely. Never forget it. It's going to be an early podcast tonight, I can tell. That's all right, though. They can't all be 2 hours long. And we'll do much, much better on Sunday, where we can finish out the book of Isaiah. That's where we're at. And it's actually quite an interesting book. A lot of great detail. Very good story. Equal parts action and sadness. I think he left. Who left? 420? Possibly. There seems to only be one of you here, so. As usual, I'm preaching to the choir. But that's okay. As long as we got viewers when it counts, when it's not my words, but his. And that, people will watch this later. It ain't all going to be on live. But you did manage to get an original song out of me tonight, so that's good. That's something. You hadn't heard that one in a while. I wrote that one. Took me about 6 months to write that one. And it was during the height of what I was going through a few years ago. And I was trying to write something spiritual, something that connected with what I was feeling. And that's what came out. I think it's pretty good. It's a little windy. It's a little long, but I think it says what I want it to say. I'll see you on Sunday. Love you too. Have a good night. And for the rest of you who may be seeing this at some point or another, won't you take a moment and go out and be kind to somebody and watch it change your life? I guarantee you, if you start showing kindness, you will start receiving kindness. That's the way it works. You have to give first, receive second. That's the nature of the world we live in. And it works. I guarantee it. God's word is true. It does matter. And every time you see it, you should remind yourself of it, because it is so easy to forget how true those words are and the meanings of them and why they're here in the first place. They're here as a guidebook, a handbook to life. And every lesson you learn in it makes you a better human being on the other side of it. So it's valuable. It's necessary. And only those who are interested in bettering their position in the world would benefit from taking the time to reading it, which is why we're doing what we're doing here, because it's necessary and there are people that need it. So, thank you for hanging out with me. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your patronage and believing in what I'm doing here. It's a strong indicator that I'm over the target. Thanks a lot. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on Sunday.